Hi there. In this Adobe Creative Cloud video, we'll quickly look at using CSS with Dreamweaver. So I'm going to quickly go File, New. Actually, I could just choose Create New right here. And I'm going to use HTML. I'm going to call this index. Actually, I'll call it my resume. That'll be the title in the title bar or the tab of the actual document. It's HTML5 is good. I'm not going to attach CSS quite yet. I'll do that via another method, and I'll choose Create. And I'm going to quickly save this thing, and I'll call it index inside of my Dreamweaver folder. I'm going to create a new folder called lesson 2 or something like that. This will be a brand new site. And save. And I'm going to quickly define my sites. So under my files here, I can choose Manage Sites. I'm going to create a new one. I'll call it lesson 2 or something like that. And I'll choose that folder I created. And that's good enough. I'm going to go ahead and set up my server as well. So I'm going to choose plus. So basically when you set up a server, you need the address. So my address is my Linux. Ligera.ca. Then your username and your password. You'll be able to test once you enter those properly, and the root directory, which is usually public_HTML. That's what it is on this server. I'm going to pause the video and set this stuff up just so you can't see my password. So I entered my data and it connected successfully. So when I hit test. So I'll choose save, and now I'll be able to upload using basically Dreamweaver's FTP. So I'm just going to quickly add some elements. So I can do this via code or design. This course isn't meant to teach you any code, but I will switch back and forth so we can take a look at it. I can just do everything via design. So first of all, I'm going to type in Marcus's resume. Actually, this is going to be some Word content that I'm going to paste in. So the person whose resume it is named Athena. And I'll make that a heading 1. And then I'm going to add some navigation. So I'll say about me and resume and contact and gallery and social media. I'll make sure this is capitalized. And then I'll make this an unordered list. Important. So this one here. So I'm going to put this inside of this is already a heading 1. I'm going to put this inside of something called a header. I'm going to put this inside of something called a nav. So I'm going to select this first. And then under insert, I'm going to choose navigation. And I'm not going to use any class, and I want to use wraparound selection. So that'll put this UL inside of the nav tags. And I'll choose OK. I'll select the nav and Athena's resume, and I'll put that inside of a header. So if I look at my code, we should have header, H1, UL. I want this UL to close before the nav closes. So that's one of the reasons I want to look at the code. So I can just click and drag that. Oops. replace the, there we go. I'll just put that nav on the next line. So UL, and I'll put that nav outside of the UL as well. That's why it's giving me the red line numbers there, because we don't have proper nesting. Beautiful. So you have header, H1, nav, unordered list, close nav, close header. And this is all within the body, so that's what I want. Next thing I'm going to do is add a div that includes the entire document. So a div is basically something, it's kind of like you can think of it as like a text box in Word. We can give it, we can move it around, we can give it dimensions, stuff like that. So I'm going to go back to my design. We'll see what happens when I select the entire thing. And I'll insert div. And I'm going to give it an ID of page. So we have classes and IDs. You can use either one, but not both. IDs are for elements that only appear once in a document. Classes can appear many times. You can apply a class to many elements. ID only to one. And I'll choose OK. And then I'll check my code to make sure everything is good. So I get a div, yeah, looks good. And then I'll do the same thing, but after my header. But this is going to be a section. So again, I'm going to go back, save this. Go back to design and see what happens when I add a section. So we have a section here, and the class will be main. There will only be one main section, but we can use that style over and over again, and I'll choose OK. So that looks good to me. I'll just again double check the code to make sure it's in the right spot. Section is inside of the div but outside of the header. And now I'm going to go grab some content to paste in here. I'm just going to go to my file manager. There's a resume here in Word document format. I'm just going to open that up. And okay. And I'm going to select the entire thing. Control A works, but I like to use the mouse for these videos. And copy. And I'll go back to dreamweaver. Go back to design view. I'm just going to click after this content goes here. Content for class main goes here. I'm going to press enter just in case I need to use this for anything, and I'll paste. So it picked up all of the formatting from the Word document. Sometimes this doesn't work. I think you need to have the site defined for this to work, but I've seen it in class. I'm going to make the profile heading 2. So if I go to the code, it looks like all of the code is solid. That's exactly the code I would use if I was the one coding that stuff. So it understood the Word formatting very well. I want to quickly save this. Anytime I see that little star, I always save. Anytime I notice it, I should say. Sometimes I don't notice it even if I see it. So the star indicates that the document's not saved. So that's basically the structure of the document. One thing, I'm going to make these items here links, but I don't have anything to point them to yet, so I'm just going to make them point to this document. So by doing that, to do that, you just enter a hash mark. So this is how you can make your links live links, but they don't actually open a document yet. So they'll still behave as links with the CSS and the HTML, but they won't actually open a document. and then we can apply our CSS. So I've got all of the PDF in a document. I'll share this document in the description for this video, so you can just copy and paste it. Again, my intention here isn't to teach you CSS, but how to add CSS to your Dreamweaver document. So I'm going to quickly add CSS. So under the CSS Designer tab, if we just choose the little plus sign, and I'm going to say create a new CSS file, and I'm going to browse for it, and incidentally, this little dialog will create the file and any folders we need. So I need a folder called CSS. I always have a folder called CSS, and that seems to be standard for a lot of web developers. You don't have to use the folder CSS name, but most people do, and it's all lowercase, and I'll say screen. You can have a number of different CSS files for a variety of things, and choose save. And OK. And then this opens, saves the index because we just linked this document to it, and it makes this new document available for editing. So I'm going to open up that PDF. It's in my same directory. Again, I'll make this available in the description for this video. So the first bit of CSS I'm going to add is for the body tag. So this is known as the selector, this is the style, and then this is the value for the style. So you'll see that we have the selector, and then inside curly brackets we have the style, and then we have the value. So it's name value pair for the selector, and you can have multiple separated by semicolons. If you only have one style, you don't need that semicolon, but best practice to add that semicolon regardless. Think of it as like a period in English. So I'm just going to quickly add this. I'm going to type it out in my CSS files because Dreamweaver helps us with our code, and then I'm just going to copy and paste the rest of this stuff. Again, this isn't a CSS lesson, it's a Dreamweaver lesson, so I don't want to teach you CSS. It'll take too long. So for screen.css, I'm just going to switch to that, and I'm going to go to code, and on line 2 I'm going to type in body. So this is just for all of the body tags in the document. There's only one, of course, but if there are more than one, this will affect all of them. And I press enter. It gives me, as soon as I type a curly bracket, it closes a curly bracket. I want a background color. So if I type in B, I get all of the, basically the styles that begin with B. There's a bunch for background, so I'm just going to get background dash, and there's color there. So I can use my down arrow to select that, and then press enter on my keyboard if you don't want to reach for your mouse. And then the code was, as soon as I type in a hash mark, I get a color picker. Again, I believe this requires that we have our site set up, like I did at the beginning of this, for this to work. 036783 and semicolon. So basically, we have these code hints and helpers so that we don't have to remember the exact style name and how to enter the color. We can pick a color from that list. As selectors, of course, if you know HTML, you'll know what you're adding. There's a variety of other selectors as well. If you kind of study that PDF document, you'll see there's a bunch of different ways of selecting stuff. So I'm just going to select all of this stuff. I think I can just select both columns and copy. And I'll paste it into after that curly bracket. This was formatted in Word, so it picks up the formatting from Word, but it should work. So just a couple of things here. We have we used this very simple selector, basically the body tag, also the header tag, but you can use compound selector. So this means any H1 inside of the header. It won't in fact affect the entire header. It'll only affect the H1 side of the header. And then we have stuff like that, nav-ul-lia, so that's a link inside of a list item, inside of an unordered list, inside of a nav tag. And then we also have these pseudo selectors. Now this one's very particular. I'm not going to get into it, but it basically breaks the column. And then we also have, there's another interesting one here, this one here. So notice that these ones are separated by columns. So this rule will be for all H1s, H2s, H3, H4. So without the comma, it's a compound selector. It would be an H7 inside of a H6 inside of an H5 instead of a, but with the comma, it's all of these individual tags. So if you have a style that you want to affect all of the tags, you can type them all out. You'll see this in default CSS styles to reset. So now if I save this thing, I should see a pretty good looking page. Go back to design here, and there we go. Our work is done. So to preview in a browser, I'll just quickly save this again. File real-time preview. I could just hit F12, which I usually do in real life, but you can't see what my hands are doing on the keyboard. And there's my very nice looking website there. Web page, I should say. It's not a site yet. It's only one page. And all of the styles made it look like this. So I'm going to quickly upload it. So I set up my site and I set up my FTP. So I can just quickly grab my files. I can grab that. I can just grab these two and put. Actually, I'm going to go. Yeah, I'll just put those. I know I already have some files up there, so it'll interfere with those, but I'm not concerned. It's just kind of a testing server for me. So I'm going to put, and I'll say yes. So basically any images that you have linked, CSS files, they'll all go with index file. If that is all I had selected, that's what that was for. And if I look at my website now, so it's my Linux. And this is basically the naming convention for that I have for my school. And there's my website on the internet. And it says my resume. So beautiful. So that's basically, so what we did there is we created a brand new index file. We set up our site, including our FTP. We quickly added a style sheet, some content to the document, as well as some HTML5 tags and sections and whatnot, and then added our content. So thanks so much for watching.